Okay, so this is another day. A friend of mine used to say, another day, another dollar. Hi. So we'll see how this goes. So I'll just go, hello everybody, and welcome. I have an interesting topic, by the way, that I want to talk about. And it is something that I wish I knew before I got married. So I'm sure you're wondering what that is, but soon enough you'll find out. You know, so many people get married, and then after they get married, they find out certain things, and they're like, I can't believe it. No, this can't be happening. And they're like, why didn't anybody tell me this? And so on and so forth. So this is one. I'm just going to touch on one of those things today. And it's, if you think you can guess what I want to talk about, please just feel free to type it in the comment section. Tell me what you think I want to talk about. What I wish I knew before I got married. Please feel free, just type it in the comment section. Let's see. Let me see if you can guess. Let me see if you can guess. Let me see if you can guess. Oh my goodness, let me see. Has anyone typed anything? Has anyone said anything? Not yet. Okay. Hi Elijah, I see you. Hello Pastor Rehoboth. Nice to have you on the other side. Nice to have you. I'm really happy about that. Okay, so let me see. Has anyone guessed? Aha. Okay. Yeah, so I'm waiting. I'm going to give you 1 more minute to guess what I wish I knew before I got married. And before I jump in, kudos to all the people who are speaking up on issues that need to be addressed in our country. It is such a good thing to voice out and let some of these things be addressed. So yes, we have to say something about it. You can't just keep quiet and allow things continue to go on as if nothing is happening. In fact, someone said if you keep quiet, you're more like endorsing. Well, people have different opinions on the subject, but someone said, someone says, I wish I married earlier. That's not what I want to talk about. You tried anyway, but that's not what I want to talk about. I'm waiting for someone to guess what you think I want to talk about. What I wish I knew before I got married. Dun, 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 dun. So I'm counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2. Any comments yet? Okay, so I'll tell you what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the fact that you will still find your speck after you get married. You will still find your speck after you get married. Can you imagine that? You will still find your speck after you get married. So you know, I used to think, you know, that once you just get married, that door is closed, done and dusted, it's over, you know, that part of you that checks out people when they come into your space to see if they are a potential spouse or if they meet some of your criteria and stuff like that. I thought that part, that trait, that instinct, that ability, that whatever you want to call it, that is inbuilt or that you developed for the purpose of being able to find that special someone in your life. I thought that part would just go away, like it would just die a natural death, or it would just fade into non-existence or something. But I was surprised to find out that it doesn't happen. And you know how I found out? One day I was working in the office and I was typing away, and then blah, 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 and then someone said hello, and then I lifted up my head and voila, my speck. call it a different version or a different model of my spec standing right in front of me, you know. And I was like, okay, right? So I tried to, I had to tell myself, like, no, stop, like, stop, you know, because I was already beginning to check. Okay, height, check, looks pleasant, check, has a nice smile, check, interesting personality, you know, and stuff like that. And then by the time you get to know a little more about the person, you can check additional boxes. So I had to like consciously stop myself from completing that process, you know, because I mean, nothing good can come out of that. I'm married. I'm married. So why should I even be going through this, right? Why should I be faced with this issue of seeing somebody else who looks nice and cool and good and has a couple of the qualities I used to look out for, right, when I was trying to settle down? So I had to stop. And that's one of the things you have to do. You have to tell yourself, stop. So I'm sure someone is wondering, so what do you do when that happens? What do you do when that happens? Before we even go into what you do when that happens, have you considered the fact that sometimes you may not even be looking for the speck, but the speck is looking for you? Because maybe this speck has not settled down yet. And maybe in their own list, you check a number of the qualities and they approach you and they want to find out how far. And I found out that some people, I don't know why, I mean, this shouldn't be the case, but you'll find out that there are some people who actually seem to be drawn to ladies that have the ring on the finger, you know? So when they just see, they're like, wow, come on, who snatched you from the cradle? And stuff like that, you know. And you're just wondering, and then you have to say, oh, sorry, I'm married, you know. I'm married. Really? Yes, I'm married. Oh no, you're deceiving me. No, you couldn't possibly be married. You look too young, you look too. And you know, they start giving you all that gist, and then sometimes you have to add, hey, I've been married, and then you have to say the number of years you've been married, and if it's not working, you have to say, by the way, I have 3 children, and stuff like that, you know, just to make them calm down small. But what do you do? Okay, so I'm not going to just go on and on. I've told you what the fact is. You will still find your speck, whether you like it or not. You will still find your speck, right? When you find your speck and you seem to be, your natural self seems to have some degree of pull towards the person or attraction or something, what do? How are you going to handle it? So that's what I am talking about now. How are you going to handle it? What are you going to do so that you don't start having divided attention, so that you don't start trying to compare your husband that you are married to or your wife that you are married to this spec that you have found? Because it's very easy to do that. You can start saying, oh, this person has this, my husband doesn't have this. This person has this, my husband doesn't have this. Or my wife doesn't have this. And then you get back home and you find out that the spouse that you were appreciating before and you were so excited about, just because you've seen a different version of your spec that seems to have some of the things that your spouse does not have, you start to look down on your spouse or look at them as if they are not good enough anymore. How do you prevent that from happening? And another thing is, you know, when you meet people for the first time, you don't know everything about them. You just know what easily comes at you, what you easily observe. And most of the time, people try to put their best foot forward. So whether you like it or not, most of those initial feelers you're getting call it the best foot that you are seeing, right? You're not seeing all the other stuff that you probably have now seen about your spouse after you've gotten married, right? So you're thinking, oh, this person is perfect. The person doesn't do this thing that I don't like that my spouse does. The person doesn't say those other kind of stuff that my spouse does. And then you might even try to fill in the blank spaces for maybe the things that your spouse does at home that you particularly may not like, right? You may now start assuming, I'm sure this lady doesn't do those things. So how do you deal with it, right? How do you deal with it? So simple. Number one, stop. Stop doing the analysis, right? As much as possible, stop doing the analysis. Don't do the comparison. It's not going to help you. The comparison isn't going to help you. It's not going to help your spouse. You cannot leave your spouse and go and marry another person. And even if you say, hey, it's a free world, I can do whatever I want. Okay, leave your spouse now. Go and marry the other person now. You will find out 2 months, 3 months, 4 months down the line that they have their own box of things that you do not appreciate. So nobody is perfect. That's what you should know. So whatever you're seeing in that other person that makes them look like, oh, they're fantastic, they're good, I wish I had met them earlier, and so on and so forth. They have their own stuff that you will not particularly appreciate, right? So just drop the idea of running away from your spouse and following somebody else because you think they look better, right? They say the grass is greener, often looks greener on the other side. So stop the analysis. This is part of the reason why you should, as much as possible, remind yourself of all the wonderful things about the person that you are married to. Remind yourself the nice things about them, the good things they do, the things you really appreciate. Put that in front of you much more than the stuff that they do, the little here and there that you do not like. Because if you dwell on those, you will forget how wonderful and how fantastic your spouse is. So, stop doing the analysis, stop doing the comparison. And now something else you need to do is, if you feel it's too much of a draw, if you feel there's too much of a pull or it's too much of an attraction or something, try as much as possible to just keep some distance from the person, try to give some room, if you are able to just be away from them completely, then be away from them completely. If you have to be in the same space with them for prolonged periods, or maybe you're even in the office and you're doing something together, you're working a project together and so on and so forth, what should you do? You have to now define boundaries, right? You have to define boundaries and decide, okay, when we meet, we're meeting for this official purpose. We get straight to the point. We talk about what needs to be talked about, address the issue on ground. I say goodbye and that's it. We're not doing the long drag on, oh, how was your day? Oh, so what did you do this weekend? And then, oh, really? Because like it or not, you will begin to find out more things about the person that you appreciate, which will just be making your life difficult and miserable, giving yourself unnecessary stress. So prevent yourself from finding out all the other nice things that you don't know yet, right? Just save yourself that trouble and keep your distance. Keep it official. Go straight to the point. Do what you need to do and go. Boundaries are really important, and this is part of the reason why I usually encourage people before you get married to learn to define boundaries. The boundaries that you defined that help you in your relationship before you get married, that help you to not get into sex before marriage and all of that, those boundaries will help you also after you have gotten married. You will find out that those boundaries will help you after you have gotten married, because you simply remember, okay, when I was dating my husband, these were the boundaries we used and it helped us. Okay, so over here too, I'm going to define those boundaries, right? So not going to certain try not to be alone in private spaces, and stuff like that. Making sure, I'm sure you know the boundaries. I hope you have your boundaries, right? Making sure you're not alone. Being with somebody in a public space is okay, right? So, but being alone with somebody in a private space, even if something doesn't happen, you have put yourself in a compromising situation, and anybody can say anything happened, and it will be your word against theirs. What are you going to say when they say something happened? You can't tell me that nothing happened. You were alone. I saw you coming out from that room and the other person came, and it was only two of you, and it was in the night. What are you going to do? What will you say? There's no camera to prove that you didn't do anything. So anybody can say that's what they call compromising situation. Don't put yourself in a compromising situation. Yes. So define the boundaries, right? Make sure you draw those lines to prevent you from putting yourself in a situation that things begin to grow. And sometimes it helps to tell your spouse that, hey, can you imagine, I saw somebody in the office, so man, the guy, he checks this box, checks that, whatever. In fact, You know, just talk about it. And then it becomes like, I've thrown this thing in the open, my spouse knows about this, and that way you can speak about the that other person, right? And not feel like you're hiding something, because with the secrecy comes some kind of excitement that makes it look like there's a possibility that something is happening. So just throw it open. And some people just say, hey, wow, that person looks good. See, check this, that really good. Oh, look at that lady, man, check out the figure, awesome, fantastic. Like, okay, but you're married to me. So let's move on. Yes. So there's nothing wrong in appreciating the fact that people are still out there who will check your boxes, right? But just don't analyze it, and don't put yourself in a compromising situation, and don't allow it to grow. Some people say, he's just my friend. Now, some people are superstars at managing their emotions, right? And they don't allow it to run away with them, right? Or to go off tangents, or to put them into trouble. If you are one of those who is really good at managing your emotions, you can control it. You can prevent yourself from liking somebody beyond a certain point. If you are one of those people, fantastic. But if you know that you have the tendency to like people that you spend a lot of time with, or that you are so good at spotting all the beautiful things and interesting things about people, you know, if you're one of those kind of people, and that before you know it, you're going to feel like, oh, we have a bond, you know, especially if you're the kind of person who communicates freely, you know, you just like to share information, and sometimes because you speak so freely, you can also share some personal stuff about yourself. And you know how it happens when you share personal stuff about yourself with others, you begin to feel like there's some kind of bond. I mean, I've shared things with them that most people don't know, you know, we are kind of close, and then from there you find yourself feeling like you have some sense of connection, commitment, and so on to that person. Then you need to watch it, because you know that you can easily go from just being friends or just meeting this person, you can quickly go into the friend zone, yeah, and then from there you can quickly go to where you feel that you have a strong bond with this person, to the point where you're beginning to have feelings. You're beginning to, they walk into the room, you get excited, you know, they are around, and you were saying something, they walk into they walk in and you start to stammer. How is that so? Excuse me, how are you going to explain that? Imagine the husband is now in the place and you're talking, and then the husband is just like, what happened? And just checks, oh, my wife stammered when that guy walked in. What's going on here? You don't want that to happen. You don't want that to happen. That would just be terrible. Imagine that happening, right? Or you now start hiding the messages, and imagine the person on the other end is not committed, like is not married, so they are free to say what they want, do what they want. So what are you going to do if they now start sending you messages like, I miss you, I wish we could spend more time together, or something? Before you know it, you start hiding your phone from your spouse because you don't want them to see the messages. And then you start thinking, should I delete? But if I delete, I won't see all the nice things he said. Oh, should I okay, let me change my PIN so that my husband or my wife cannot access my phone anymore, you know? And from there, one thing leads to another, and then maybe before you know it, you're looking for opportunity for your spouse to travel, and then you're alone in town, and then, you know, one thing leads to another. So you just have to you just have to protect yourself and make sure you don't put yourself inside trouble. Make sure you don't allow things to go on that will now make you do what you don't want to do, and then you now have to start doing the apology. I'm so sorry. It meant nothing. It meant nothing, honestly. Honey, I love you. It meant nothing. It was just a mistake. You know, we went for a company event, or we went for an outing, and we had something, we had a little too much to drink, and one thing led to another. It meant nothing. Or you know, the one where maybe the spouse walks in and the person is there, it's not what you think it is. That's the one that makes it bad. It's not what you think it. What is it that I think it is that you have to explain immediately I walk in? Do you understand? So just make sure that that doesn't happen to you. You know how you have to know how to deal with seeing your spec after you have gotten married. The fact is, your spec is still out there. I have to remind you, they're out there. Your specs, there are plenty specs. You see some that are a little fairer, a little darker. You see some that have more money. And this money, because you were not part of the process in making that money, it looks more attractive than the one that you were working together with your spouse. Your spec is still out there. So do not be deceived, and be aware and be careful. So know how to deal with this, okay? So I've talked about knowing yourself and knowing whether you're able to handle having those people as close friends without it growing into something that becomes complicated, okay? And then you need to also make sure, check with your spouse, because if you decide that, okay, I'm cool, I can handle this, check with your spouse that they're okay with you having somebody that is close to you, to some extent, you know, a little, like having that kind of friend, especially when they see that that person is like them to a great extent. Then they'll know, okay, this guy is a potential problem, contender, you know. So make sure your spouse is okay with the idea before you say, I can handle it, I'm just going to be friends with the person. Do you have the necessary boundaries in place? We talked about that. Do you have necessary boundaries in place so that you keep from doing something silly, something stupid, something that you're going to regret, right? Do you have the necessary boundaries in place? Talk about that. And then another thing is, don't accept gifts. So sometimes you say, oh, I have this really special friend, blah, 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 special friend. What are you specially friending again after you got married? Anyway, if you decide to, what kind of gifts do you accept from the person? If you have to check to make sure that you are not accepting what is beyond what you can easily buy for yourself or what you can easily return, right? So don't accept a gift that will make you feel indebted to the person somehow, like, wow, they did this really special thing for me, like, oh, this act of kindness was just too much, and then because of that you're now feeling like you owe them something, so that if for some reason they now decide to ask for the something, you now feel like you are supposed to give them that something. No, don't accept gifts that make you feel indebted. And then watch the conversation. You have to keep it where it is, where it should be. If you decide you're going to be friends with the person, if you decide you're going to be friends with the person, then make sure that conversation stays in the friendship zone. If you decide that, or if it is just a work relationship, make sure that you are strictly talking about office stuff. Keep it official and don't allow it to go beyond that, okay? When you start to hear the conversation tending in the direction that it shouldn't go, then please just make sure that you stop it. Make sure that you don't continue down that path, okay? So watch the conversation and watch your emotions. So you'll find that the discipline you developed while abstaining from sex before marriage will help you. The discipline you developed while in your relationship before you got married. So this, I'm talking to the people who are married now. The discipline you developed while you were preparing to get married or going through your relationship, your dating, your courtship, and all of that. This discipline you developed to keep you from getting involved in sex before marriage will help you in your relationships after you get married to avoid those complications, those I didn't mean to, those it was a mistake, and you know what I'm talking about, right? So be careful. So now you know. So that's what I wish I knew. That's one of the things I wish I knew before I got married. Yep, that's one of them. And if you want to share, feel free to leave us a comment so that we also know. Yes, someone says contagious laughter. By the way, this is my laughter. Do you know some people don't like my laughter? Honestly, there was a post that some other presentation we did, my husband was saying some really funny stuff. I was just laughing like crazy, and people were saying all sorts, like, why is she laughing like that? Wait till they laugh. Wait till they make too much laugh. These are laughter, they annoy me. Some people said, in fact, she's laughing like a witch. I'm like, oh my goodness. They actually said that. Anyway, the interesting thing is that Even if you try and really try to make me stop laughing like this, it's not going to work. It's part of the design. That's how I came. So, I've tried many times for different reasons. You know, some people say, oh, it's not really ladylike to laugh like that. And so I tried to be like a lady and laugh like this. It didn't work. I didn't succeed. 1 week max, I was back to laughing the normal way. So laughter is good medicine, right? For the soul. A cheerful heart does good, so much good. So allow joy and laughter in your life, and however you choose to express it, whether you choose to laugh, whether you choose to shout, whether you choose to dance, whatever your strategy is for expressing that joy, please go ahead, okay, and express it, and stay happy and stay positive and stay joyful, right? Yeah. So that's it. Thank you everyone for joining this call, or for joining, well, not a call, just joining me on this time out. Okay, so that's a wrap. Thank you. You were just passing. Somebody said you were just passing. Thank you for passing and stopping by as you were passing. Yes, so I'll just drop this final words before I leave. Love your neighbor as yourself. In everything you're doing, love your neighbor as yourself. If we can just do this is the greatest commandment. Love your neighbor as yourself. First, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, right? Then love your neighbor as yourself. If you love your neighbor as yourself, there are lots of things you won't do. And if everybody loves their neighbor as they love themselves, a lot of the things we worry about and are grieved about in our society will not happen. So this is my personal message to you. Love your neighbor as yourself, and spread this message around. Please tell everyone you need to love your neighbor as yourself. It's the greatest commandment. If we can love our neighbors as ourselves, we'll all be just fine. Thank you. Bye. Leave your comments. I'll respond to your chats. If you have a question, feel free to chat. I'll respond. Send me a DM if you want, and all of that. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.